There are some general managers and owners that will withstand the backlash, but I think money is probably also a part of this. Then Colin Kaepernick doesn't view himself as a $750,000 bare minimum quarterback in this league where Austin Davis has to take whatever he can get because Austin Davis is a hold snapper.
Hold snapper and third-string quarterback.
He's not good. He's not Colin Kaepernick. And once you get wrapped up in the emotion because you don't like Kaepernick's stance with the national anthem, that's when we get silliness like, well, he can't learn the playbook. Well, he's not a natural leader. Well, he's not a pocket passer. I mean, give me a break. If you are just taking emotion out of this and whatever you think about the national anthem protest and toss it out the window, when you put Colin Kaepernick next to Austin Davis, you realize it's a no-brainer. Colin Kaepernick's a better option at quarterback. If your guy goes down, if Russell Wilson gets injured in week 2, do you want Austin Davis steering the ship for a team trying to get to the playoffs, or would you rather have Colin Kaepernick? You'd rather have Kaepernick every single day of the week. And that goes with the signings of guys like Blaine Gabbert and other bozos. You'd rather have Kaepernick from a football standpoint. So throw all that other stuff out of there that people use to rationalize their dislike about his protest. And what they would like is this kind of karmic comeuppance. And that happens here too, where people feel like Kaepernick deserves to get tossed out the side. He deserves to get trashed on by the NFL. He deserves to not have a job because you don't like what he stands for. But the reality is this is probably about money when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks. And I also believe there's probably a part of this where they are a little worried about competition with Russell Wilson because that article, that column done in ESPN The Magazine by Seth Wickersham. Wickersham is above reproach. I mean, the guy is one of the best reporters down the middle that we have in sports. And this was a really full-fledged, full-bodied column. This wasn't about clicks. This wasn't about a blog post. This wasn't about saying something fiery. It wasn't a hot take. This was a real in-depth look at the dynamic inside that Seahawks locker room. And the more that you look inside of it, the more that it makes a lot of sense that Pete Carroll is kind of putting a cocoon around Russell Wilson. And if you bring Kaepernick in, Kaepernick is a very polarizing guy that also can be dynamic at times. And if Russell Wilson does have a little resentment baked into that locker room because he's been protected or because Pete Carroll doesn't go after him as hard as he goes after the defense, if some of the defense resents Russell Wilson's celebrity, or maybe they resent it, here's an interesting piece of this, that Russell Wilson feels inauthentic a lot of times. It feels like he goes to the microphone with a script of what to say, and then he says it without really ever knowing who Russell Wilson is. That was another part of this article, that some of the Seahawks feel like they don't really know who he is. I mean, when he married Ciara, it almost felt like this was a prearranged celebrity bit where I get your celebrity, you get my celebrity. Together we have 2 + 2 = 4 celebrity. You'll get to be at the Nickelodeon Choice Awards. I'll get to go to the Grammys. You know, there's this piece of it. I want everybody to know we're not having sex before we get married. There was an artificiality somehow for Russell Wilson, a lot of what he has done in his life. And it would make sense if the Seahawks go, hey, we don't need maybe Colin Kaepernick being a more popular guy in this locker room. I mean, remember, the Seahawks were one of the teams that had guys that stood in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick. I think it's probably twofold. It's probably what Doug Baldwin's talking about, a money situation where they've got all of these guys up against the cap. They don't have a ton of free money to spend on a backup quarterback. And probably Colin Kaepernick, at the very least, wants a lot of incentives. And maybe they don't have that. But you probably get it done if you need to get it done. Because in the NFL, guys can get real creative with the cap. Okay, there's not a lot of times where teams that really want somebody can't keep them. They can get creative. But there's also, I'm guessing, a piece of this where they are a little worried about Russell Wilson's popularity inside the locker room, protecting him a little bit and making sure they don't kind of create a dust storm where there isn't one. So I think there's probably both parts of that.